This man is my new band leader. See, he's my new band leader because up to now, last couple of days, I've had to come in and really worry about everything. And now, I don't have to do that. He's going to worry about everything, and all I'm going to do is get the big bucks and sing.
And if I screw up, I get a royal pranging from him.
That's right.
The starting note.
Ooh.
Okay. And one.
So this is quite probably day one of rehearsal. Still figuring out parts, still figuring out keys, still figuring out tempos. Lots of songs to get right.
Let's go to our key.
It's not our key, right? No, our key. So the original tempo of this song was quite fast on the Martha Reeves and Vandellas back in '64, but I've heard it done a few different ways, and in the end it's just got to feel good, and this version is probably a little slower than it should have been. Day one, everyone's marking through their parts, everyone's getting comfortable, getting sound right, and of course that's what rehearsal's all about. But unfortunately I always sort of try to push it to see how good it can get, and sometimes we've just got to get familiarity with it. Because at this point I'm being asked a million questions, none of them about music, and consequently my concentration is not particularly top-notch, especially with the singing. I've got to try to remember the words and listening to everybody's parts at the same time, instead of just enjoying myself, which is what of course I should have been doing. This is a little slow, but you can feel that everyone's kind of just walking through it, because not only do we have to learn the new music, even though they were familiar songs. We had a band that hadn't played together. We had certain groups of musicians that had played together, but not as a big group, and this was 18 people plus me, and a couple of guys I'd never met before, percussionist Leslie Smith, and one of the singers, Tyrone Brooks, and the horn section did the record, but I'd never met them prior to that. So everyone was reading, and I was cool with that. People most of the time come and see me, I suppose. So reading in that kind of environment is not really a big deal. But Heatwave to me is the flagship Motown song. I mean, this just kind of caricatures the optimism they had back in the '60s. The songs were such feel-good songs. And of course there's the ending. What do we do at the end of these songs? Because on the records they faded, and they're quite short, so you kind of want to join a few of them together, because people don't like to applaud too often. You give them 2.5 minutes of music, I don't know if they're going to applaud after that, unless it's something like Yesterday or A Hard Day's Night. I mean, songs that they barely know anyway. They want to feel like they've lived through something before they applaud, so we put quite a few songs as medleys. There goes the arm movement, which tells Brad that he's got to tell the others. Chain of command. On this stuff, as you all well know, on some stuff there's the drums. There's Leslie Smith being given tambourine instructions.
It's all
down to the tambourine.
Yeah.
And I mean, on Dancing in the Street, for example, you'd think there was just one tambourine sound, but actually when you listen to the records closely, there are quite a few different kinds of weights of tambourines. Some have got skins on, some of them haven't. It's not just tambourine playing, it's an art. And Dancing in the Street is, of course, iconic in the Motown story. I mean, it was captured on this particular day, this particular session with these particular musicians, and it became one of those grooves that it was impossible to replicate, really. 2 drummers, Benny Benjamin, Freddie Waits, I think, and 3 guitar players, all playing in the same room. Heavy record, heavy groove, and to try to do that is very, very difficult. We came close on some occasions, but this was trying to get the key and the groove for the live version. And of course, unfortunately, because it's so iconic, that people have expectations, so as soon as they hear that horn riff, da 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 da, they know what they're going to hear. They just hope that it's going to be as good as they remember hearing it last time they heard it played. Guitar parts are quite amazing because there's 3 guys each playing a part that together makes a machine. Individually they sound strange, but very clever arrangement. There goes the arm. I mean, it's a work in progress set, you know what I mean? It's not. Yeah, we needed endings, but this was only day 1, so plenty of time. What are the ones that we left out? We left out. I could put Nowhere to Run back in.
Match up if you bring it down.
We also had to sort of find keys. I'd already done this process with the album because the girls' songs like Martha Reeves, Vandellas, Supremes, Kim Weston, Marvelettes, they sing differently from me. I'm a guy, they're girls. So the key had to change without trying to make it sound too dark, you know. So we fussed around with that for quite a while. And this one, Nowhere to Run, isn't so hard because it's all in 1 register, but sounds like a very simple song, and the lyrics actually just change subtly throughout the whole song. And if you're not careful, you get lost. It just becomes a 1-note samba, really, with 1 kind of lyrical thought. So again, the idea is to get the subtleties, and because everybody knows this song. See, it's difficult to get it right, even if you're reading it.
Sorry I met you, hoping soon that I'll forget you. When I look in the mirror to comb my hair, see your face is the smiling there. Oh, no, nowhere to run to, baby, high. Nowhere to...
Eddie Willis. He's one of the true originals. There were 3 guitar players, as I said, and he played on pretty much every track as one of the 3. Get him smiling and you know it sounds good. That's Daryl Sturmer from the Genesis days and my group. He kind of knows everybody's parts. He's one of those senior students, you know. He knows the answers to the questions, he knows the questions to the answers before you've asked them. And if there's a doubt about someone's part, he'll always come up with the what they should be playing. Great guy to have in a band. See, like with the drum fills, they sound a little basic and simple, but that's what they played on those records, and I made a point on the record of actually nailing the drum fills that were on there, and we put them in the same places they were. So that's why I leaned pretty heavily on Chester to do what I did, basically. I mean, they're simple, but if they're not played exactly the same, then it just sounds like a bar band. And that was my pet fear, that we would end up sounding like a bar band if we weren't careful. Find a little bit of a better ending for girl and Darcy and just stop dead in time. Still this problem with the endings. Anyway, let's go through the songs first and then worry about how we finish them. Into each heart some tears must fall, and though you love and lose you must stand tall. I think with this set of concerts, you know, I just wanted to go out there every day knowing I could sing instead of wondering whether I could sing. Quite often in Genesis tours and on my tours, you know, we do the keys of the songs that they were recorded in. And I would constantly be running this emotional battle as to whether I could reach certain notes. And I really wanted to enjoy this, so I made a point of trying to take the keys so that I'm pushing myself a little bit, but not to the point where I couldn't, you know, play on stage and sing on stage if I had the beginnings of a cold, for example. Now this song, My Girl, this we played there for the last 2 tours over the last 15 years. We've been playing this as an encore. And it suddenly occurred to me we could play it because it's Motown. Smokey Robinson wrote it, and also the audience loved it, and so we moved it to the end of the show, and it seems to work, and no matter what's happened before, people seem to forget it when they hear this song. So this is a real, and we're singing it and playing it well as well, and that is interesting because it means it has come from familiar territory, whereas the other ones need to be taken out and thrashed around a little bit before they settle down. The songs, not the singers. And it's interesting, if you watch the faces of Bob Babbitt and Ray Manette and Eddie Willis, they're the original guys. They know when it feels good. So you can tell a lot from looking at them as to whether they're happy or whether we're getting there or whether there's still some work needing to be done. The singers really added a huge amount, you know. Their choreography and their attention to the harmonies, you know, just it made my job a little easier because all I do is stand there and sing, you know. Can't go back to the drums now anymore, and piano I couldn't play. So the show was really, you know, very down to them in terms of giving the audience something else to watch after they got bored with watching me. So and everyone's sitting down, of course, you know, reading. So it's that was a very important plus.
I got sunshine on a cloudy day. Even got the mountain made.
So you know the song backwards. There's no reason to look at the book, and yet it took me a long time to wean myself off reading the words because they were all just different, you know. I hadn't written them myself, and that makes a huge difference. Once they come out of your brain and your mouth, you kind of easier recall. But I can sing along with the records. I've done that for 45, 50 years. But it's singing it yourself, then that's a different thing altogether. Another important job of a band leader is, of course, knowing when to stop. And, you know, when people are getting tired, when people need a lip break, too much information, so let's have lunch. So now, everybody, it's lunch. We come back in about an hour, and we run the whole thing now. My dad, my brother, my older brother and sister, my brother was a cartoonist, still is, and my sister was an ice skater, professional ice skater, and now is an agent. And apparently when I arrived, and started playing the drums and following somewhat in their footsteps, he said, why just can't I have one normal child? he did, my mum told me, he said that, just one, to do a normal job, And my brother and sister did get sort of press ganged into the city, which is where my dad worked. But they escaped, and I managed to escape before being press ganged. And when I made the decision to stop Oliver and stop the acting, which I was getting I was getting asked for, after 3 years of doing it. When I decided to stop that and be a professional musician, because there was no way I could do both, and I'd made the choice, and that's really, I'd only been waiting till I grew up, so I could actually be in a band. He didn't talk to me for 3 weeks. He was very upset. And unfortunately, he died at Christmas '72, which was the '72 where we went to New York with Genesis, We played in New York, in America for the first time at the Philharmonic Hall. So he never really got, he never came to the shows or anything. He never had any idea that it might go somewhere. But my mother's always encouraging. I mean, she, bought me a van, so me and the other guys could get around. So there was always encouragement. I think she used to be a singer with our mother cut his doorstep. Anyway, she was a sort of chorus girl, and when my dad married her, I think my dad's family thought that, he'd married beneath him. So she was used to sort of being oppressed. So I think she always encouraged the kids to do whatever they wanted to do, and I guess he did in his own way. I mean, I do all my singing at home, I don't use headphones. I just sing to the speakers, and all the singing you've ever heard from me, except for Genesis records, has always been on my turf, alone, So I probably have got better. Certainly with these, I suppose there's an angst if you singing your own songs. I mean, obviously it's pleasurable, but we know these are great songs. All I've got to do is sing them. You know what I mean? There's a difference. But there are some songs, I've played it to the record company in America. I went over there I played them the 18 songs, and I thought it was just going to be playing it to one or two people. Well, the office shut down, basically, and everybody moved into this room. And I started sweating. I thought, this is, so you think it's good, but now you're going to find out. And people were dancing at the end of Papa's Rolling Stone and Blame It on the Sun. They applauded, and it was just like they were enjoying it. It wasn't like let's blow smoke up the. It was, they enjoyed it because they're great songs. I think because I had to get a palette of sounds, In fact, it's funny because the day we finished mixing, my studio, part of my outboard gear that actually had all the drum sounds, they weren't Motown drums, but they were drums that actually, African drums, but they sounded exactly the same as those drum fills and the snare drums, blew up the day we finished the album. I mean, if it had happened a month before, 2 months before, it would have been a disaster. But now I get a palette of sounds, because basically it was always, so once you got a few, you don't need a big kit. There's no cymbals, hardly any, very rarely any cymbals. So I'd get that, and then I'd get the chord sheets. I'd get the tempo of the song, which at first was very, very haphazard. I mean, I had iTunes, and then I'd have my click. But of course, if I highlighted iTunes, I couldn't hear my click. So I had to go, I had to do it all by hand, like just keep saying to yourself. And then I had the brilliant idea, after about a month or two, of actually making a file of the song and putting it into the arrange page, which changed my life because I matched all the tempos. So, and of course they didn't have click tracks or anything, They started off in one tempo and then they ended up in another, and sometimes slowed down, So if you actually tried to get the tempo of a song at the beginning, it was totally different by the end. It's living and breathing music, But I would get the tempo, and then I'd lay out the thing, with the piano, and just piece by piece, get guitar sounds, and just try to listen to it over and over again, and take the high end off, so I could hear what the bass drum was doing, hear what the bass guitar was doing, and. Considering I don't play bass, I did a pretty good job, I mean, there's on YouTube, there's some fantastic instrumental versions of those songs, which, again, I discovered a little late, but I did discover it in time, and also a cappella versions. And that helped me, get rid of the voices and hear what the rest of the track were doing. So I would just sit there and just, till I got. And I remember getting a James Jamerson part once, the bass player, and really, I mean, I kind of, yes, when I actually got it right, because it'd take me such a long time to do it, and I wasn't even going to play it on the record either, because Babbitt was going to play it, but it was just like I had to try my best to do it. It was a bit frustrating sometimes. Well, when we do the horns, we had. Baritone is on everything, and baritone is I hardly ever use baritone. Baritone sax, and there would be something on one of the Curtis Mayfield songs. And I said, it doesn't sound right, what is it? And then I knew what the answer was. It's me, isn't it? It's me. So I had to go home and fix the thing, So there was always that kind of thing happening. Anyway, so, and then get vocals down, maybe get the backing vocals first, because singing along with backing vocals, you go with the flow, you leave holes, and just generally just get each song to a state where you do a rough mix of it, leave it, and then start on another one. I mean, right now, thinking about it, it seems a daunting task to have a list of 44 songs and sort of say, right, one, down. But it was, it was great fun. That's all I can say. It was not work at all, and it was doodling. Doing the best hobby you could have. That just happens to be what you do in life, And even when I'd fixed all the Funk Brothers corrections, they came in and still had a few other things which we had to do. And it does make a huge difference when it's the right notes. I mean, you keep me hanging on, da 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 da. You wouldn't think you could get that wrong, But I played it, and